I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Maria and Lane Koch. Maria and Lane, they're two traveling ICU nurses, which I think this is going to be very cool to talk about some of that, but currently sort of searching for financial freedom through real estate. So I think what I'd love to do is go ahead and let you guys kind of tell your story. As I said before we started recording, start wherever you're comfortable and kind of let us know what brought you to where you're at, and then we'll kind of dive into wherever it takes us.
Sure. We are super excited to be here. Thanks for having us, Jason.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You want me to start it? I thought you about the house first, right?
Okay, so we'll start with me because I kind of gave Lane the bug early. So our story, we're going to start in 2015. Both of us were recently graduated from nursing school. For us, that was a level of security that we honestly hadn't known. We both grew up in kind of, I wouldn't say poverty, but not with extra money. We had everything we needed, but not a ton extra.
Wealth or generational wealth or anything like that.
Our parents at the time growing up didn't own the houses we lived in. We were renting, stuff like that. So graduating nursing school for us was like, okay, we in 2015, our starting salary was around like $65,000. And that was, giving us a life of where we can buy a home, we can buy cars, we can have like at what's necessary. And in that same year, I bought a house first, and Lane and I were just friends at the time. We were working together at the hospital. And he was like, what are you doing buying a house? Like, why would you do that right out of school? And I was like, well, I think that's what you're supposed to do. I don't know what else to do with the money. And quickly I rented out my other rooms in the house just because I was a single female at the time, and it was a 3-bedroom house, and found that I was actually making money off of what's now termed house hacking. I didn't know that at the time. Just rented some rooms to my friends, and eventually talked Lane into doing the same thing. About 6 months later, he bought a house and began the house hacking process.
Yeah. I had a bigger operation than her. I had quite a few friends in there helping me
and
for the mortgage. Yeah.
For the next, I would say about 4 years, our good decisions had stopped there. We kind of went straight into the life of living paycheck to paycheck. I had got a new car along with a new house, credit card debt, going out to eat way too much, spending too much money on clothes. We very much settled into a living paycheck to paycheck lifestyle.
Yeah.
That all the way up until when we got married. We ended up getting married in the beginning of 2020. February 29th, 2020. So we like to think we had the last party before the pandemic.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But, the majority of our wedding, we actually put on a credit card, and we just didn't realize how our bad financial decisions that we were making.
Yeah.
Until, I guess, around May of 2020.
Yeah. So we ended up going to travel nursing, and we, 3 to 4 times X'd our income. And we saw the debt we had and how long it took us to pay off even after doing that 4 times. And we realized like how big of a hole we had dug ourselves into, and that even with increasing our income 4 times, that it took us, quite a longer than we would have anticipated to dig ourselves out of that amount of debt. And so we just stayed committed to, not wasting this opportunity. We saw it more as an opportunity, and we stayed committed to not like inflating our lifestyle with our income. And we were kind of already in the real estate game, and I'm pretty handy, and I used to work on houses and stuff. And so we were like, all right, well, we'll start renting your house out and doing this right and run it like a business. And With our extra income, we've been able to acquire properties rather rapidly. I would say probably accelerated our kind of goals by at least 5 years. Just having that extra income over your expenses is amazing. You can't even speak to it almost. So we just acquired properties, and we're at 4 rentals. We're under contract for a new primary, and then we'll have 5 rentals and then our primary residence.
And something that happened along the same time as this, so we mentioned that we began travel nursing in 2020. So what we do is we move somewhere for about 3 to 6 months at a time and then move on to a different contract. And because we had increased our income, we were able to take a month or so off in between contracts, which was super eye-opening for us. We were like, oh my gosh, there's another world where we can take a month off of work and get to go home and spend it with our families. We took off a month around the holidays, which never happens for nurses. We're usually working on Christmas Day. And I think it all kind of started to sink in that we were making good money, even back home. And then especially now with travel nursing, but we were exchanging like time with family and time with each other and kind of our sanity when it comes to ICU nursing. We do work 12-hour shifts, but it makes it for like a 15-hour day. And so we kind of started putting the pieces together where like, if we could get enough rentals where we weren't doing this, we would have so much more time to give each other, our families back home. We just realized kind of how little time we had to actually spend with each other.
Yeah. I mean, that all, there's a lot there that I think will actually be really great to talk about. And I didn't mean to interrupt if you wanted to.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. No, I just think you, well, I guess a lot of it sort of hits personal to me because similar things, right? Like I'm a veterinary surgeon. I grew up without money. I went through all of life, college, vet school without money, went through my training to be a surgeon without money, and then came out and suddenly was making like way more money than I ever thought, like, which is to some people is probably not very much money, but I was like, to me, it was kind of amazing. And, but it's, you sort of mentioned the mistakes that you might make when you get to that point, right? Where you're like, instead of realizing, okay, I've been living at this amount, and now I feel like I have to live at this amount. You fall into that lifestyle creep or whatever, whatever people want to call it, but it is a easy hole to fall into, right? Because nobody teaches us any of this in school or before.
Recognizing that, and especially people that don't have the ability to hit that kind of income increase, it kind of takes you back when you do hit it. You're like, oh my gosh. But then think about, people just getting raises, here and there. Like, think about how easy it would be to, get that new car, and it would eat up that whole raise, or the patio furniture, the new kitchen table, or whatever it may be. People sometimes, I think, it just kind of consumes them a little bit. They just take a chunk away at their income, and they don't think about, what that means for their future and their time. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a fantastic point. You just don't think about what I think people think, and again, I'm saying this because I did all this, but like, I think people think I made it to this point, I'm making more money, like I worked hard to get here, why should I continue to sacrifice? But what you're actually doing is sacrificing the future.
Yeah. We see that much in the medical world too, because it's just a stressful environment. We see, residents that go through their fellowship that finally become attendings and then just blow all the money because they're like, well, I sacrificed 8-9 years of my life to do this. It's my time to enjoy it. And instead it's like, oh my gosh, if you just buckle down for a little bit, you can have so much more time on the back end of things. And
right.
It's just not a common thing that people think about.
People don't think about it. We're not taught it. I mean, you guys know, you're nurses. That's a high level of training. None of those classes are on financial literacy. same thing for me. Like
Yeah.
none of the classes in vet school are on financial literacy or entrepreneurship or business shit. There's nothing there to teach you what to do when you get a little bit of money. And so people don't know what to do. They just do kind of what you're told, the standard, like, oh, I should contribute to my 401k or an IRA or whatever. And then you just kind of spend the rest. You find ways to spend the rest. And so I think it's really cool what you're doing. In really quite a short period of time, you went full circle, right? Like you you house hacked, which is a good thing, right? That's a good sort of start to real estate investing. Then you sort of fell into that lifestyle creep of, where you were maybe not doing the smartest things with the money that I think almost everybody does at some point in their life. But then you figured out, oh, hey, wait a minute. Like if we work hard, I guess you can say sacrifice for a little bit, then as you were saying, the rewards of that in not too long of a time can be tremendous, especially if you're using it right and investing in real estate, right? I mean, would you agree that that's kind of what struck you?
Yeah. I mean, we, and when we say sacrifice, the sacrifice was not doing the lifestyle creep. I mean, honestly, we still have a good like work-life balance, and we do travel. We're traveling nurses, so fortunately it enabled us to do that. And so just saying, that's enough. We don't need to buy new things and spend all of this money. Let's do it frugally as we can. Obviously traveling gets expensive, but with the amount of income that we had at our disposal, it would have been very easy to not use it in a way to acquire assets or something like that. So
right. And
we got the RV to live in because a lot of travel nurses get stuck with you make more money when you go to higher cost of living areas. And so a lot of nurses will take jobs in San Francisco that makes the most money, but then you also have to pay for that Airbnb in San Francisco, and it just eats it all away. And so early on, we actually did one contract without the RV, which was a month long. And then we were like, okay, we need to figure out this living situation where we can like cut those costs down as much as we can. Because if we can somehow save all the stipends and not have to pay the high cost of living, then we'll just have that much more that we can invest with.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think people think, oh, I don't want, I earned this, I don't want to sacrifice, blah, blah, blah. I kind of think what you guys are doing is pretty cool. Like it may look to some as sacrifice, but what are you're traveling around. You said you took a month off whenever you want in between these things. Like that's a pretty good life.
Yeah.
And it's like, you haven't been doing it that long. Like you haven't been investing that long. You just made a few shifts, some very, very smart shifts, but not like crazy things that are impossible for people to do. Live. I mean, it sounds so simple, but like that's genius. Don't pay for an Airbnb or a hotel or the flights, all of that, right? If that's just going to add to essentially your income by not having to, fund those expenses by driving around and living out of the RV, which like, it's cool. You said you were at the coast the other day. I mean, that's like, being able to just do that and have, because it's not, the podcast hasn't been on that long, but we've probably, I don't know, 40 or so episodes recorded. We just released the 27th one today. Not one person, when I talk to them, has ever been like, now I have this giant bag of money that I can lay on. Like that's not, nobody's looking for that, right?
Yeah.
It's you're looking for financial and time freedom, and you kind of already have it.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely well on our way to where we want to be. So
and so what is your goal? What is your goal to stop working as nurses? Is your goal to keep doing that but also have passive income? What are you sort of, or maybe you haven't completely nailed it down yet.
Yeah, so it started off like in the beginning where we just wanted additional income. We wanted to add passive income to our nursing jobs, and kind of a crucial piece that happened in our story that I haven't mentioned. I was getting my doctorate to be a nurse practitioner. I had done 3 years out of a 5-year program, and then in 2020 they postponed my program for 2 years, which was all that I had left in the program. So basically, it postponed my graduation for 4 years. And at that point, we made the shift where we were like, okay, we want more control of our financial life. We don't want a decision that's made somewhere else to set us that far back. So we've now kind of transitioned to, we want to become what's called work optional as soon as possible. So we want to replace our nursing income with real estate income, rental income, as quickly as we can. And so what that is going to look like for us is I'm going to continue working as a nurse for a couple more years, but Lane actually has about 3 weeks left.
Yeah.
And then he'll be full-time in real estate at that point.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna go into flipping. I'm gonna try my hand at flipping. We've got a good nest egg, and we feel comfortable with our market and definitely my ability. I'm gonna do. I can't label it general contracting because they have to be licensed, but all of the unlicensed work, and then I'll subcontract out anything that requires licenses and stuff. And so I guess the means to an end is just more freedom with our days. And once we start to feel that, I think we'll know when we've kind of reached that point. We never set like really a number, because that's hard to do, with like inflation and, I guess our goal is to just like kind of live a little bit of a modest life, travel a little bit, and have some freedom over our days. Our kids, if we have a child, or when we have a child, if they're sick, we don't have to go into work. We can cancel our plans. And so just having more control over the direction that our day has to go or can go is kind of, and whatever that number is, we don't know. I think we will once we hit it, but right now we're just kind of keeping it pretty open-ended. We're both motivated, so I don't think that motivation will get in the way if we don't set like a specific number or goal. But so that's kind of where we're headed.
Yeah, I sometimes I think, a lot of people I think it's important to have goals, but I think that sometimes when you put an exact number on it, whether that's dollars of passive income per month or units under management or whatever it is, people set these goals, and I've done it too, where it almost makes it harder to get there by saying, oh, this is my end goal that's attainable, but you're sort of, it's making you maybe lose sight of the steps in between and not enjoy the process. So, if your goal is, now, I guess some people would argue that flipping's another job. So it's not, it's certainly not as passive as other things, but it's a good way to get chunks of income. And then, whether you turn that into more passive income, what I mean? It's just,
that's essentially why we're doing it. It's just going to be synergistic with kind of our model. Like we're I guess our path is defined, whereas it's short and long-term rentals, and we're kind of stuck on single family right now. We might move into small multifamily. We're not really even looking at commercial or large multifamily yet. So right now it is kind of our path is acquiring single family homes that produce income.
Yeah.
So and flipping, synergistic to that, I'll be able to get them, ready to rent, and then we'll pull some of the cash off the sales back to buy. We might end up purchasing a lot of them that I flip and turning them into rentals.
Right. Yeah. It gives you multiple exit strategies, right? You can, and you can know that going into the purchase of the property. So if you look at something and you're like, this one doesn't work great as a rental, but it will be a great flip, because it's going to come down to the market and all of that. So I think it gives you options. And that, I mean, that's one of the best things about real estate is there are a lot of options, right? And you just listed off a bunch of them, and it's probably not even half of them, right? There's so many different ways that people can get involved in real estate investing, on an active level or a passive level. So it's pretty cool what you're doing. I really, I think it's awesome. And I think it's cool to see, I really like hearing about people's journeys and what, sort of what brought you to where you're at, and kind of what do you see as your future. So I think that's a very neat story. And, hopefully, I don't know, Maria, if you plan to eventually stop nursing, or if you plan to go back and get the PhD and just kind of always keep that as a option, as you said, work optional, and that's kind of, I think, as a traveling nurse, like, isn't it cool? You just only take jobs in place you want to visit. You're like, hey, I want to be in Hawaii for 6 months. Let's just take a job in Hawaii and hang out. Like, there's so many options there, and you can get paid to be there.
It has really changed our tolerance for jobs that we would take. Absolutely.
Yeah. But instead of being focused solely on, is this going to pay me enough money? You can focus more on, is this a place I want to be? We haven't tried this new area vacation wise. I mean, I've done that on a small scale with, I used to do some marathon running and stuff. So I would pick races based on just a place I wanted to visit. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to train anyway, I'll just go run someplace that'll be nice to run. And so it's kind of like, you can, that's for maybe a long weekend, but you can do this on a much larger scale this way, and have, like I said, be getting some income while you're there.
Yeah.
How's COVID been for you guys?
Oof.
Probably terrible.
That is our,
It's a loaded question.
that is the reason that we are kind of upping our timeline of going home and starting Lane as a full-time real estate person and flipping, is because I don't think we can do another 6 months. The fifth wave of COVID is kind of,
it's hitting us hard.
yeah.
So yeah, we did a lot of work in New Mexico, the Navajo Nation, the native population there. Just kind of poor health overall. I mean, from a epidemiological standpoint, and they got hit pretty hard, and it's just been busy. It's just it's a different kind of work. You're masked up, you're gowned up, and it's just there's not a whole lot of evidence behind it all yet, and there's just been a lot of bad things, So we're just kind of gonna get out of it for a little while.
Definitely take the toll on us. I mean, yeah, we talk about the long 15-hour days, and it's not, we've talked to some family members that are like, oh, but you only work 3 days a week, and like, we would love to do that. And I'm like, our 12-hour days are insanity. Like, it's,
And plus we've got the real estate stuff on the side too. So we kind of feel like we're working, 2 full-time jobs or 2.5 full-time jobs. So we're just trying to decrease a little stress and just, see where life takes us a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I really feel for, nurses and MDs and things, like people in the human medical field over this last, whatever it's been, 18, 20 months now. I feel like there's going to be a lot of PTSD, and it's kind of brutal. And I don't envy that. I'm not surprised to hear that a lot of people want to get out, because I think it's real rough to just keep getting hit with another. You probably thought, oh, it might be over soon, and then another wave comes, and
it's back. The Delta variant is.
It has only solidified our our big why as well. I mean, we want to be able to work and help people, but not at the expense of our own mental health, and not having to do it to eat, not having to do it to pay bills. And it just completely changes the job and the requirements and different things that are being asked of us right now if we don't have to do it.
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely.
It's only solidified the reason that we're doing everything and giving us more motivation to have that exit strategy.
Yeah. Well, you sort of beat me to the punch, but as the name of the podcast is Know Your Why, and maybe you just answered that question, but I would love it, if either of you want to kind of expand on what your why is. And I understand at the moment probably feels like it's a strong enough why just to kind of get away from what's going on and in medicine, but I would guess that probably there's a future why too, sort of. I think there's the negative drivers and then the positive drivers of why. So I don't know if you want to kind of expand, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So our big why behind everything, comes down to time for us. It comes down to not having to work night shift, not having to be away from family on Christmas, being able to take more than 1 week of vacation a year because that's all your employer allows.
We got more than that, to be fair, but yeah, like two or three.
A lot of employers only allow the 1 week a year, and depending on what we would do, it's just, we wanted a little more control of our time and our future time. And we don't have children yet, but they played a big part into our decisions and, wanting to just simply go to basketball games or different events. I have an 8-year-old sister that I can't tell you how many things of hers that I've missed because I work 12 hours a day and my shift isn't over until 8 p.m. And just, it kind of put everything into perspective for us that we were missing a lot of big events, a lot of birthday parties, a lot of holidays and things. So hopefully, with what we set up, our rental properties, whatever the flipping is, every new decision we make, we won't say yes to unless it gives us more time.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great theory.
Another thing too, it's just like I continually ask myself when I wake up, I'm like, okay, if you could have the perfect day, what would it be? And it would be to wake up and decide what you want to do that day. Obviously, you got to stay motivated and keep a direction. And you do have to do things that you don't want to, but you can choose things that excite you. I get to team up with my wife in an investing journey, and hopefully, spend more time with family and stuff. And so, just kind of waking up every day and decide having control over your days.
Yeah. It's time freedom, and I think it's like everybody has a little bit of a different spin on their why, but I think almost every person I've talked to, in some way, time freedom is part of that. Yeah. Right? There's been a very common theme, and it's like, you just want that control, right? You don't want to be told that these are the hours that you work, this is what you have to do. It's like, it's easy to work long hours and work hard if you're excited and motivated towards what that's, how that's benefiting you. So I think that's really cool.
Maybe a why that I've noticed for Maria is I think with the Instagram, she kind of runs the Instagram, and I think she likes sharing this knowledge with people. It's exciting for people to better their lives. And as far as the Instagram and networking and stuff and sharing kind of what we're doing, I feel like she gets a lot of fulfillment about and I do too, but I don't do it. Social media is a little more difficult for my brain to understand how to reach those people, but I have all kinds of conversations with nurses that I work with every day, listen, you don't have to work like this the rest of your life, and you can earn your time back. You just got to be smart about it. So
it is kind of funny once you sort of have that light bulb moment where you figure out, hey, wait a minute, this works. This really works. And then you just want to tell everyone. You're like, you just want to tell it, no, don't do that. Do this. This will work.
They're wondering if you're crazy or not.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people think they're just stop talking about real estate. I'm like, no, this is going to save my life. This is literally going to save my life. And if you listen, it could save your life. kind of crazy.
think that we have absolutely lost it. Like they're like, what are you guys? You're living in the RV, but you make good money, but
You're nurses.
You're driving a 2012 Impala, and like we just don't really understand what you guys. But you own 6 houses, and they're like, what's happening?
Yeah, but it's all genius. Like it's like, people don't understand it, but like the reality is you're doing it exactly right now. Like that's it. Like you figured it out. Like you unlocked the magic, what you know what I mean. It's just you now figured out how to take your life back. And anyone can do it. Literally anyone can do this.
You just have to figure out kind of how money works and how it can work for you. Like honestly, that's the biggest. It's just if something requires a little amount of action and it has a high return, a financial return, I guess, or monetary or time return, whatever it is, then I mean, you've made it. Like you just keep doing that. You just keep doing that same thing over and over again. So
I can't get my hands on money fast enough to invest it. Right. Like I don't want to buy anything except for assets now. I'm like, I just paid off my truck. I'm like, I'm never buying another car. Like, it's just like now that I'm like figured it out, I'm like, if I just hit this really hard for like 2 or 3 years, because even in a year, I've noticed a huge difference in like what we've been able to do passive income. Like if I hit this really hard for 2 or 3 years or 5 years, even like, then guess what? Like my kids are young. I'm not young, my kids are young, but this means that in a few years when they're actually doing the things you talked about, where they're like, you know, they're playing sports, they're doing recitals, whatever it is, I don't care, whatever it is, I will be there. Right. I will be there, and I will know that I have the power to say, no, I love what I do. I don't want to stop doing surgery. Like I love that, but I love my kids more.
Right.
That's it. Like,
and also, doesn't it excite you to like just tell people about that so that they can do it for themselves? I mean, that's
I feel like I probably annoy some of them, but it's if I can reach a couple people with that, you know, with the excitement, and they're like, yeah, maybe this is maybe he's onto something, and it's like, it's not just me. Like I'm talking to people all the time on the podcast, like you guys have figured it out. Like people have, like there's lots of people that have figured it out. Look at what they're doing and just do that.
That's one of the biggest barriers we see when we do share it with people, and we just like want to bang our head against the wall. They're like, well, you know, I'm not very handy, or you know, I don't know anything about houses, or and there's just so many avenues.
And they're like, I can't run a background check, and I'm like, don't let that stop you.
Like just these like little barriers.
You don't have to. You pay $30 and someone does it for you. Like it's very easy.
Or I don't have enough money, which is a very hard barrier for people to get over. But we are, you know, right now we are like getting over that hump. We know that we can find money. Like we have no issues about it. Like it's there. You just have to talk to the right people, network, and find it. So.
You just have to believe that you just have to believe it. And you can believe it because there's a bunch of other people doing it too. Right. So it's not like you guys are doing awesome stuff, but you're not doing anything that like has never been done before. I'm not doing anything that has never been done before. Like this is, maybe we all can put our cool little creative spins on it, but like it's the same thing. It's real estate. It's been around for forever. It's how people have built wealth and financial freedom forever. Like that's how it works. And it's as simple as taking a few steps and getting started. So I'm obviously, you can see I get excited about this, but
we could be here all day with you talking about this excited. That's a lot of our conversations. I don't know.
And that's, if we talking about us not being the first, that's exactly what we did. Is we read books from other people who have done it. We listened to podcasts from other people who have done exactly what we wanted and just made the same decisions, just really copied them, did the same thing. And
it's all there. There's a recipe out there for doing this. Like just do that. It is very accessible at this, especially with the internet. I mean, it's all very accessible. All right. So this one, I mean, I guess it can be real estate related, but this question is, and you can please both answer independently, but basically tell me something about yourselves that maybe isn't common knowledge. Special skill, a hobby, guilty pleasure, whatever you're comfortable sharing, that maybe will let people get to know you better.
Oh man, well, I think I knew this was coming based upon listening to your last podcast. And we kind of already used it, that I'm going to get out of nursing, I guess, and start flipping. I don't know. I'm pretty handy. I did small remodel jobs, mainly like finish work, trim, flooring, stuff like that. I don't know.
What's your secret?
Yeah, I guess nobody knows that about me.
Let's see. What is someone?
They're getting ready to find out when I start flipping. I guess.
Right. They're gonna know soon.
Yeah.
Something relatively random. I'm a published author. I actually did a research project in 2015 with a group of friends in my residency from nursing school, and our project kept getting picked, and we were moving on to different levels, and it's published in the British Medical Journal now.
Awesome. That's really cool. That might be the only, well, I won't say, I don't know if anybody else has published articles. I have some published articles, but I don't know that any of my other guests have that in their pocket. So that's pretty cool. Some people don't like that question, but I think it's really cool to hear what people kind of have outside of real estate.
I like that.
Yeah.
How would you like people to reach out to you? When they hear this and they want to talk to you about how things are going, how would you like them to reach you? And we'll put it in the show notes.
Probably our best place would be on Instagram or Facebook. We are on there as No Coast Investing. And that's where we kind of share where we're at with, different investing things we're doing, different tips that we've learned, just kind of our updates with where we're at. So reaching out on there, via messaging, or just we have an email on there too. Whatever questions you have, we have a huge goal of helping as many people as we can start getting passive income. So I try and answer every question I get as best as I could.
Yeah, that's really cool. And okay, final question then is, what piece of advice would you give to people that are maybe sort of in your shoes a few years back when you were just getting started? What advice would you put out there for people to help them kind of get going?
Mine would probably be to start with education. Stop buying the books and just read them. I know I had a stack of like 10 books that I had before I actually was like, okay, let me start looking into this. And as soon as I started listening to podcasts, reading books, Lane finally got me to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I read Set for Life by Scott Trench, and both of those were kind of the roadmaps that we were just talking about. I was like, oh my gosh, this is very doable. These were not crazy things that they did. So I would say start with education, figure out what other people are doing, and just copy it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just from like a financial standpoint, I think once you hit that education, the rest will fall into place. Like obviously, there's tips like, decrease your bottom end and increase your top end. If there's a job or a promotion you're going for, just if you can't do it for your career or whatever, do it for the money. I just kind of take that leap, and some people don't have as much of an ability to save money, so sometimes you just have to cut your expenses. And
you either, probably best if you do a combination, but you either need to decrease expenses or increase income. And then
especially at that point that we were, where we were not able to save, what do you do in that situation? It's the only two options.
You just have to figure out something to get it going. Right. You do need some money. I hear I feel like there's a lot of things that get said in real estate. Like, you can do this with no money. Well, you can do it with no money of your own, but you can't really do it with no money. No one's just going to give you a house. So it's kind of, there are tricks, right? There are ways to do it. There are ways to find investors. There's a lot of ways, but yeah, it's just, figuring out whatever strategy makes sense to you, and then just getting started.
So maybe that is a plan.
Yeah.
maybe you just uncovered it. Just come up with a plan and stick to it and go for it.
That is too vague for some people. Buy a fourplex with an FHA loan. Start there.
Right. Yeah. And that's it. Like, or house hacking. I mean, you did that, right? Like, buy something, get a bunch of roommates, have them pay you, make money for the house that you own. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, this is not crazy hard to figure out stuff. It's just a matter of, you got to start. You're probably going to have a little bit of sacrifice in the beginning, but like, ultimately it's going to be well worth it for the rest of your life. And my advice always is, like, start young, start as soon as you can start, because time is definitely your friend when it comes to, sort of compounding through all of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was really great. Thank you both for being on the podcast. I love hearing your story. I'm excited to, kind of see, we'll get you back in 6 months or a year and see how the flipping business is going, and how things have grown since then. Hopefully at that point, we'll be talking about how you don't have to deal with COVID patients anymore and all of that. So we'll stop here, but I'm really happy that you both took the time out to talk, and I really wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, we're glad to finally be able to catch up with you.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, thank you so much, and everybody have a good day.